Imagine that you just got hired to be in Back to the Future, 1984 or 85, whatever it is. You're there, right? You're in the table read, the first table read. This is the legend. You're there. Everybody reads through it, and everybody's laughing, and I assume high-fiving, and saying it's so funny or whatever. And then they say to Eric Stoltz, who was the original Marty McFly, "What did you think?" And he says, "I see it as a tragedy." Takes the air out of the room, apparently, and fast forward 6 weeks into shooting when they had to fire him and go with Michael J. Fox. Now, this is the question for the episode. Was he right? I don't know. I want to say, first of all, that Back to the Future is a fucking fantastic movie. I love it. It's almost a perfect movie. Quentin Tarantino thinks it's almost a perfect movie. So that's good company right there, right? But over the years, knowing about Eric Stoltz, his view on the movie and the script, I don't know, something, maybe it's the 40th anniversary or whatever it is that's, it's at the time of this recording, 40th anniversary, it's in theaters. And I've just been thinking more and more about Eric Stoltz, like, was he right? Because I've always thought it was kind of a shitty message. Like, I used to make the joke back in the day that Back to the Future is really about, it's okay to not like people for who they are and money brings you happiness. Because that's kind of what they're portraying. But I never, you never want to be a downer at parties or at dinner parties or get-togethers and go, well, actually, I think it's a terrible message. Because it's a great movie. I love it. I mean, I don't have any issues with it. But I do think that argument is strong. And then I started to discover Crispin Glover also thought the same thing and actually voiced it to Zemeckis, which he said on an interview. I think it was with Jim Norton or somebody, New York morning show, long time ago. And he said, yeah, I think this sends kind of a terrible message, or we have to be careful here. I don't really like what's happening because at the end you're portraying wealth as being equivalent to happiness. And apparently Zemeckis just like yelled at him. I don't know if that's true or not, but you do research like this and you don't know what's true and what's not. A lot of people have said great things about Zemeckis. They just might have had a difference of opinion on the script. But when I heard Crispin Glover say that, I thought, oh, wow, that's interesting. He thinks that. So, there's more people like that. This is before Reddit, I think, or anything like it. But then you start to hear about Eric Stoltz and you see the footage that surfaced, I think in 2010, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a documentary about Back to the Future where they actually showed some of the Eric Stoltz footage, and it's not color graded because they just shot it, so there's a difference in look there, but he does look like a darker character. He has more of a sullen portrayal of Marty McFly on his face, and some of the people in the movie would confirm that, yeah, he did see it in a darker way. Dramatic actor, method actor. I don't think he got along with a lot of people, but I think a lot of people seemed to be friends with him. I think it was just a difference of how they saw the movie, basically. But that's what I want to talk about in this episode, and I want to hear your opinions too. But here's why I think there's some truth, why both things can be true. The Back to the Future we got, beautiful, fantastic. I love it. It's great. It's fun. It's funny. It's an icon, right? It's iconic. It's one of the great movies, I think. But I think Eric Stoltz could also be right, and I would love to see that version of it. I'm glad that I didn't, only because I'm so in love with what we got. But now, I know they didn't shoot the whole thing, but I would love to see that version. I love the idea of seeing different actors play different roles. Like I'd love to see Christopher Walken play Joey Tribbiani in Friends. I'd love to see, Bruce Willis play, whatever, one of the bosom buddies. I don't know. I think it would be fun just to see how different people handle different scenarios. Just to see someone like, I don't know, what's the woman in Meryl Streep play Kramer on Seinfeld, or in movies, whatever. Anyway, it would be interesting to see it. What I think, as I understand it, he doesn't talk about it very much, Eric Stoltz, who's a great actor. I think. But apparently his idea is that you've got this timeline, you get to the end of it, and Marty remembers the timeline, the two timelines, right? Marty remembers his family before he time traveled, and then the new version, but nobody else does. So there's the tragedy of like, you're never going to get to know, they're never going to know who they were. You know, Marty knows it, and there's a tragedy in that as well. Like it's almost like maybe like Bilbo Baggins a little bit. You know, when he comes back from the adventure, he's never the same. And I think, I have to admit, I've actually never seen the second or third one. I've seen the first one like 1,000,000 times, but I don't know why I've never seen him. I think I've been unsure of them for some reason, but people seem to love them, so I should watch them. But so maybe they cover this, but I feel like that's a little bit of what Marty McFly must feel, even though he feels at the end of the first one like, oh, this is great. I've got, my parents are rich and they're a successful author, and we've got this new car for my birthday. Who gets a new car for their birthday? And a cabin at the lake that he takes her to. So I can see Crispin Glover's dilemma with it, which is, well, wait a minute. Is this just because they still ended up together in both versions, right? But just in one, they're struggling financially, and the other one they're not. And that feels like kind of an 80s thing, you know, where people, not all of it. I mean, if you read Tarantino's cinematic speculation or cinema speculation, he talks about how shit the movies were in the 80s. And I think that's true for the most part, but clearly not for everything. I mean, there's good stuff in there. But that did feel like kind of an overwhelming message from a lot of the movies and culture coming out of Hollywood or New York at the time, which was this idea about success being tied to some sort of financial gain or reward, you know. So I think that's in there for sure. It's interesting that Eric Stoltz's view of it, and he may have had that view of it as well, but his idea is that it's a tragedy because all these things happen that are different than what had happened before, and that nobody's going to remember them. That's a tragic loss for, you know, potentially for the people. Maybe they're happier the way it turned out. We'll never know. But I always thought it was fascinating, and I would love to hear more of it. I don't know if he would be interested in giving an interview, not in this show, of course, but like in some show or a documentary of talking about it, because I think people are interested in his take. And I wonder, too, at that table read, if Crispin Glover may have come up to him afterwards and said, I'm kind of with you. Because that seems like up his alley. I feel like both of those guys like to cause conceptual art trouble, you know what I mean? Like moody, kind of off the wall, out of the box thinking, you know, with Crispin Glover's appearance on Dave Letterman, where he, like, you know, does this interesting experiment. So I wondered if after the table read they kind of bonded over that. Maybe. I'd love to get those two. Doesn't have to be me, of course, but anybody to sit down with those two and go, well, what do you think about this? What those times? Talk to us. Did you bond over that? Did you not see it the same way? Do you still kind of view it differently? What did you think, you know, about everything? So I think that would be interesting. One thing to note is that I think that the script was different, though, at the table read. Like, for example, there wasn't a DeLorean, I think, in the original script. Now, I don't know if it was in the table read, but it was originally a refrigerator, apparently. But Zemeckis wanted it more mobile, which is a good call, by the way. And Spielberg didn't want kids climbing into the fridge to go back in time, which is, you know, it's probably a legitimate concern. And then at the end, I think instead of lightning, it was supposed to be a nuclear bomb, perhaps. Let me know if you've got other ones, because I think there are more of them out there. So Eric Stoltz's view of this could be of that original table read, or that original script, or I don't know at what stage things were. I would imagine they were probably close to what it was at the time of filming even Eric Stoltz's part. But you never know. It could have been kind of different. And everything I ever saw with Bob Gale, the producer, and Zemeckis, they always spoke highly of Stoltz, saying like, "Oh, he's a great actor." It wasn't like, he wasn't getting the laughs, because I guess they screened like a 40-minute early cut of it and showed it, and Zemeckis was like freaking out, saying like, this is not getting the laughs that this is a comedy, and he's doing an interesting thing, but it's not what we're looking for. And that's when I guess Spielberg said, well, you gotta do what you gotta do. But anyway, I think the whole story is fascinating, and it adds to the mystique of it all. You know how sometimes you do projects, and before you get to the end result or the final version of it, you go through all these things, and there's subtext in there. Think about all the actors who had to reshoot 6 or 7 weeks or whatever it was. Doc Brown, Biff, Lorraine, all these characters had to reshoot all this footage now with a completely different lead actor, which is nuts. What sort of transformation did they go through? Is the movie as impactful as it is, as resonant as it is culturally, because of these earlier, issues that they had and had to do all these changes? We'll never know, of course. But, in the acting world, I think that makes a huge difference, right? If you say a line just thinking as it is, that's one thing. And if you say it while thinking about nuclear war, that's going to look different and it's going to come off different. If you say it 1,000,000 times over the course of 3 years and then you get up and say it, that's going to be completely different. You know what I mean? So all these factors have to go in, and you just have to kind of assume that all of these things fell into, the universe's beautiful hands and gave us what it gave us. So I'm happy it is. I'd love to see an Eric Stoltz shortcut of the movie, maybe, or just hear the interview of him talking about it. But I don't know. Obviously, Back to the Future gets 2 thumbs up, and I'd love to see that documentary with him and Crispin Glover just kind of talking. Just talk. It's just people talking, right? People can talk, right? I think so. So let me know what you think. I want to know what you think, because you've probably got more facts on the thing, and let me know if I got something wrong. I think I'm pretty good. I tried to research as best I could. There's not a whole lot of information out there. There's a lot of talk, but not a whole lot of factual. There's not a book or anything that I know of, and even if there is a book, we don't know if that's true. But fascinating story. Back to the Future.